This look good. Hello and welcome to Let's Get Critical Real Estate Edition. Some of you that follow us for architectural photography or architectural critique, whatever, might think real estate? Now, real estate photography is important for a multitude of reasons. First and foremost, if you're following us because you want to become a photographer, real estate jobs are prevalent and the bar for getting into shooting real estate is a little lower. That's not an insult, it's just there's a lot of stuff that needs to be photographed to put on the MLS or on the market, and you'll have the opportunity to shoot it with having less experience. To do it and to do it well is a valuable service to the real estate agents. And if you're a real estate agent and coming across this, we're going to give you some just very simple tips for styling, composition, and rough lighting to make your images that much nicer and to convince people to spend money to move into and buy the house that you're representing. We've had a real estate agent send in some photos from a property that they're representing to sell. Kudos for you, Joe Radford, for being brave enough to put this in front of someone as critical as myself. First, we have the ever important drone shot. It's going to give you a great composition of the overall piece of property and what is located nearby. It was good that you shot this at a time when there was a little bit of shadow, so you see depth and everything on the house, on the roof line, on the trees, and you get the view of the ocean beyond. Not a bad thing. The bad thing to do in here would be to shoot when the sun was directly overhead or behind the drone and you don't get that shadow. But I think this is absolutely good enough sun angle to get an idea on this. The only criticism I'd have here would be in the color grading of this. It looks a little cool, a little blue. If you look in the shadows here, they're very, very blue. A little white balance on there, it could be fine. If you could possibly shoot it without those power lines being in, that wouldn't be bad, but overall, not much to critique there. Yeah. Ooh, next we have the back of a couch. The thing I would do here, I'd move the camera in a little bit and move it up a little bit and then tilt the camera down. If you don't have a tilt shift lens, you can just move the camera in, up, and tilt down. You can always correct your verticals in post, in Lightroom. If I'm talking to real estate agents that are doing this, I would say invest in Lightroom and always have your verticals vertical. And most of the time your horizontal is horizontal if it's a square image. A squared off image where you're looking straight at horizontals. You don't want them to be a little off one way or the other. But this one, yeah, I'd move in and tilt down a little bit so you can just see the surface of the seat of the couch. That way you can place yourself in there. Joe may have had reasons why he didn't do this, or he may have been moving quick and just not have gotten it. The other thing I do is open that umbrella outside, even though it looks like this was shot probably on a late summer day and no one would have been using it, but still having that umbrella open speaks of life going on there and is a little more welcoming. The shelf here and everything isn't too bad for knickknacks and all that. Maybe personal family photos you want to take out maybe, but otherwise, pretty good. Light balance isn't too bad. There's a little bit of warm yellow light here on the left. Generally, I try and say turn all lights off when you shoot something and then balance in post. If you're a real estate agent and you're wanting to shoot your own stuff and you want to up your game, figure out how to bracket images and then stack them in Lightroom, and you can really blend an image nicely and to a large degree. Retain a lot of quality and not get too milky of light going on. And this is blended fairly well, but my main criticism of this is that you're looking at the back of the couch. Next, we have a kitchen looking over to potentially mudroom or other. One thing I'd say here is that the horizontal line of this counter is not horizontal. It's kind of going off at just a little bit of an angle, which is kind of disorienting. I would have moved the cord of this coffee maker around behind it and what's ever to the right of those salt and pepper shakers, and maybe would have put a pot on the stove there. That green light over the stove compared to this more warm yellow light to the left or right of the stove is a little distracting. I would have taken off the soap and whatever that is to the right of the other soap there probably. I just would have moved those things down. Probably the paper towels as well, or maybe move the paper towels over to the right. This faucet, having its handle go right into the faucet is a little odd. Maybe move your composition left or right, or move the faucet a little bit. That one chair on the other side, I think it's fitting, but the back of the chair running into that vertical bit there isn't great. But I think that's a little overly critical for real estate photography. I would have shut that door there so it's not open. I would have definitely moved these mats out from the floor there, just to show more of that marble floor. If you could have shot this with the lights off and retained the technical quality of the image, I probably would have done that. But with what you can do in Lightroom now, this is fairly well balanced, way better than you could have done even 5 years ago in Lightroom. So overall, pretty good. I would just criticize those mats and those other couple styling things and getting the horizontals. Next kitchen image. All right, so you see the difference in color temperature here between very blue in the dining room and very balanced in the kitchen. We still have that very green light over to the right. You could use a brush in Lightroom to kind of change that color a bit, but then you're going to run into this a little bit more warm color temperature below the cabinet. And if you go and click on remove chromatic aberration in Lightroom, you'll get this little bit of chromatic aberration on the coffee maker taken care of. Then I would have probably eliminated a couple of those things on the counter to just make it look cleaner. So again, I'd remove the mat there and those couple styling things, and if you could, shoot it with all the lights off, but I really doubt you'd be able to get enough light filling in here to be able to do that. But overall, a very good kitchen image for a piece of real estate. And let's see, here we have this kitchen again. We have the idea of how the kitchen is connected to what I would think is the entryway there. That's a nice thing to show. All the verticals are vertical. The overhead lamp is a little blown out. If you had a multiple bracketed exposure where you could bring that in, great. I would have unplugged the cell phone charger over there. The floor is a little bright over here, but overall, again, for a real estate image, this really communicates the space, and people are going to be drawn to it. I maybe would have let the outside there blow out a little bit. I think you get closer to reality when you let the windows blow out a little bit, especially if you're not using strobes or anything else to start to balance things out and make it look like your eye would see it. I'd lean towards just letting windows blow out a little bit. Now we have the kind of breakfast nook area looking into a nice sun porch there. So the color temperature difference is pretty striking, but again, not the end of the world. I probably would have moved a couple things off that counter and taken care of that cord. But overall, it's clean, and styling is done well for a real estate image. I would have maybe looked at doing this straight on into that sunroom to just kind of graphically square up that image a bit more. But the lights in this one look nice, actually. Now we have that sunroom. That's looking nice. It's pretty well straight on. The horizontals are horizontal at the top and through the middle to bottom. The cords, if you're not doing a lot of post-production, you're not probably going to be removing plugs or cords or anything else. But it's nice. You have this chair in the foreground. I would have probably tried to complete this coffee table, the feet connecting to the carpet there, maybe taking a step or two back. Probably would have removed this this rug over by the door there just to have more wood there. But again, overall, this is a very good real estate image. It really shows what's going on there, and it borders towards going into more of an architectural image, with a little bit more constrained composition. Architectural images will usually be a little more constrained, a little more detail-oriented, tighter focus than a very wide informational leaning that real estate photography generally goes towards. And yeah, everything's kept, it's not overly busy or anything else. All the shades are even. These are good things. We're not just shooting into a corner. It's not off-centered. Verticals are vertical, horizontals are horizontal. These are all really good things to tick off as you're shooting real estate. So master bedroom ideas here. I probably would have tried to have gone all natural light with this, seen how much natural light is there, and then just done a bracket and stacked it in and corrected in Lightroom, were I shooting this as a real estate agent. I would have tried to have removed a bit of this color cast from the from that ottoman side bench thing there. Probably would have moved this little bit of basket or whatever that is out over on the right, or maybe moved it closer to camera. Probably would have removed the clock there. And yeah, just gone mostly natural light, and probably would have cheated towards getting the foot of the bed in there rather than cutting it off, because I don't think you need that little bit of the fan, and you could have come down a little bit on the top and still shown that it's a vaulted ceiling in there. So probably would have gotten those pillows even and stood them up a little bit more, and maybe gone with just one central white pillow rather than a gray and then a white back and forth. And probably would have removed the Kleenex or whatever that is to the right of the lamp there. So clock out, that out. I think the plant's fine in there. So as a real estate agent, you really want to show what the experience of their master bedroom is going to be like. Sometimes I come over more so on this side of frame and shoot the other way across the foot of the bed, so you can kind of give the idea of this is where you would be in this image in the morning or whatever, looking out through these windows to the right. All right, now we got the master bedroom tub. I think I would have staggered the styling here a little bit more on the left, a little bit differently, rather than interfering with this little side table deal with the towels. But good call for making a little bit of an atmosphere there with the towels and everything else. I probably would have lit the candles just to add that little bit of romance to the master bath. And I do think it's somewhat of a good call to shut those shades. You'd have just an incredibly bright light coming in there, compared to where, if it doesn't have any other windows in that master bath, you would have had a really, really high contrast situation. I might have tried to leave those open and turn all the lights off and see what it looked like, and if it was too much and I knew I couldn't fix it in post, I would have gone this direction. So maybe that is what Joe did here, and that's why we ended up here. But overall, this is good. I might have tried to have gotten just a little bit lower. The lower you can go with the camera, it generates more of a feel to the images, where the higher you go, it becomes a little more informational. And that's just my take on it. That's how I feel when I look at images that I compose that are lower compared to overhead. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I'd have to say about that. Looking into the shower, always a nice thing to for someone who's looking to buy a house, to know that there's a nice big overhead rain shower, blah, blah, blah. If possible, I might have stepped back just a little bit further to get more of this trim on the right there. The verticals are pretty stinking close. Yeah, I maybe would have included a little bit more of the sink and to the right, or maybe kept this where it is on the right of frame and moved to show more on the left, because then using that mirror, you could see more of the bathroom if it wasn't going to hit you and have you in that reflection. But even so, there's tricks you can do to avoid that. And probably, again, I would have removed the mats on the floor. So, and if you had a colorful bottle of shampoo or something, or even a washcloth folded over, I would have put that in the shower there on the shelves, to just have something in there to draw you in, color or something else. Right now we have that over on the left and you're kind of drawn that way. Dining room, my first thought on this is I would have maybe squared myself up to that back wall, knowing that you probably would have run into having yourself in that reflection. Maybe that's why you didn't do that. The color contrast here between incandescent light and natural light is this gets pretty muddy on this one. And then you also get this reddish bounce over here on the wall from the floor. So you have the natural light with its blue coming in, bouncing off this floor, reflecting some red up into the wall. And then you have all this yellow on the ceiling, and then blue on the soffits over by the window. And then it's a little more green in here because the green cast from outside's coming into there. If you shut all the lights off and shoot like this, this composition, all lights off, only natural light, you'll reduce a lot of that color contrast or color cast differences. But I mean, you kept the trim and everything over here to the right, which is always what's the trim like in this house? The trim level. And so that is information that is valuable to this type of photography and what you're communicating. All the shades are the same level, and everything's fairly minimal and clean. And I don't know about these dolphins on the left, if they're just distracting or if they bookend it well. Yeah. But yeah, my main criticism is I would have probably approached this straight on and with all the lights off. A great feature of a house, staircase. Again, I would have, now this is hard because that stairwell probably doesn't have any windows up top. So it would have been just a dark hole up there. So I maybe would have layered this and just painted in areas from there and color corrected closer to a natural white balance. But again, if it's a real estate agent shooting this for themselves, they're probably not going to have the ability to invest that kind of time into things like that. So I'd, as much as possible, lean towards leaving all lights off again. But this is well composed. The verticals are vertical. The horizontals of the stairs are right on where they need to be. And you don't waste too much space up at the top. You don't have a big blank ceiling coming at you. And so this is well composed, and everything's fairly well balanced. And I agree with letting this area back here blow out. So one thing I would have done again is I would have moved this rug on the bottom right, because it's just something that's becomes a little busy there. Game room here. I don't know if I would have, I think I would have at least attempted to do this with all the lights off, because I mean, if you look at the ceiling here, you've got kind of a magenta and blue, and then balanced, and then green, and then it kind of goes to magenta towards the end. You know, there's a huge difference in color contrast. Maybe what I would have done is just at least selected out that ceiling and, you know, eliminated a lot of the color, just desaturated it a fair amount. But again, being real estate photography and depending on the budget and time involved, you have to take all that into consideration. I get that. This is a little distracting, the end of the what do they call this? It's like shuffleboard, mini shuffleboard. Being right on that corner there is a little bit of conflict there, but and in Lightroom, if you can, I believe there's a clone stamp tool in Lightroom now where you can take some of these like plugs and thermostats and stuff out pretty easily. So yeah, game room kind of from another perspective, or another game room, depending on how incredibly huge this house is. This little bit of the chair being in over on the left there bothers me a bit, but it's not overly distracting. Showing the bar over to the right there, it's good. Again, I probably would have tried to have included that, the last leg of the pool table there in, to keep that in. But yeah, verticals and horizontals where needed are in line. On this one, this bar, I would have kept the top of the light there in. And I think I would have tried to have done this natural light for sure, just to see what it looked like. Probably would have eliminated a few of the knickknacks in the windows. It gets kind of busy. And then this lava lamp right there on the corner with all the stuff still behind it is a little busy. But those are styling notes that I think I would have looked at and maybe done a little bit of this. This looks like an interesting Caddyshack. Nice. Yeah. Home theater. That's a hard one. I probably would have tried to have gone straight onto the screen and just kind of caught part of the doors and tried to minimize this side of it as much as possible. It gets kind of uninteresting and unapplicable to what's really going on, the value of what's going on here. But it's well balanced for an or for a real estate image, and you know what's going on there. Now this one. So I would have waited to shoot this until someday when you're visiting the property and it had some direct light on it. It's there's very little for shadow lines or anything else. So I would have just waited until you had some direct light on there to help you understand the depth and everything else of this image. And the outside exteriors of this, we got good verticals here. We have nice shadow lines to help understand the eave condition and the trim and the depth of the quality of the depth of the finishes and everything else of the building. Nice sky in there. This is a well-timed shot for this kind of house, and it gives you all the information. And using these trees on left and right help frame it as well. Good call. Yeah, I like that. This is as well nice. This asphalt driveway here on the left, if you use the gradient tool in Lightroom and just kind of darken that just a little bit to pull your attention back to the center, that would help. But using these light posts as foreground elements works. Yeah, for this building, that composition. The only thing I would have looked at is maybe going a lot further back to if you could bring in some trees again, like you did on the other image. That would add some framing, and as always, a real kind of cozy Thomas Kinkade-ish type of thing to do. This one, I definitely would have attempted to include the top of the building and not cut it off. And I would have moved this lamp post just a little to the right to cover up the electric utility pieces there. That would have cleaned that up a bit. And I would have waited till the clouds moved so you have a little bit more consistency for the light condition between the other images and this one. And then this entry shot, I probably would have tried to shoot this one straight on. It would have avoided seeing into this area here quite so much. And you probably could have used a little bit of framing from that bush and these bushes on the left, bushes on the right and on the left, and then included more of that sidewalk, or at least getting back and going straight into it would have included a couple of those things to tell more of the story. So, and that is it for input on or criticism of real estate photography. So it's an important thing to look at for both potential architectural photographers, for real estate photographers that want to do it themselves or look at who to hire to do it for them. Maybe not where some people want to do all of their work, but it is definitely a market segment that contributes to a lot of the creative economy and is kind of a stepping stone, or depending on what kind of we still do shoot real estate occasionally, but it's just for like downtown high-rise buildings. If you have any questions, let us know. If you have any feedback or criticisms, let us know. Thanks for watching, and tune in again next time we criticize other people's work.